So I'm about to go and watch the new Ant-Man movie. It's called Ant-Man and the Wasp, I think, or Ant-Man and the Wasp. Uh, yeah, it's a Marvel movie, so I have good high hopes for it. I think Marvel has been on top of the game for a long time now. They know what to give their audiences. Do I expect a perfect movie? Well, no movie's perfect, but do I expect a great movie? I don't know. It could be. There is a chance that Marvel will have a subpar villain. I mean, there are a few villains that I like from the Marvel universe, but I mean, a lot of them really aren't that interesting, or they just don't really write them the right way. But I I'm expecting to have a little fun with this movie. I expect to laugh. Um, I don't know a lot about the new characters, so I'm anxious to learn a little bit more about them. Another things to expect. Possibly a Stan Lee cameo. Um, I think it's too early to put Steve Ditko's in memoriam name in the end credits because I think he died like about 2 days ago or 3 days ago, and I think it would be too soon for them to digitally add his name to that, and I don't think he really had anything to do with Ant-Man, but we'll see. So I predict a movie that will be a competent sequel, not a superior sequel. How Spider-Man 2 or Terminator 2. So we'll see. So I'll get back to you in a little bit. Yeah, I just got back from seeing the new Marvel movie, the new movie from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is Ant-Man and the Wasp. I thought it was okay. It's nothing really special. I mean, this year we've had 3 MCU movies. The best one I remember was Black Panther, and the second one was Infinity War, the Avengers movie, which I wasn't as crazy about as everybody else was. But so, what did I think about Ant-Man and Wasp? It's it's an okay movie. So as you might figure out, this is a sequel to the first Ant-Man movie, which I like. I remember liking. What I really liked about the first movie was how it was ultimately a heist movie, just with superheroes. It takes some ideas from the heist subgenre of movies, like what you would see in movies that are like breaking into banks or escaping, even escaping from prison and all that. It's like breaking and entering, and of course it uses quantum physics, and it involves subparticles and stuff that would take years for me to really understand. So anyway, so yeah, this movie sort of follows up in the same vein, except it kind of felt like I was cheated out of it. What I wanted focused on Ant-Man being like a tag team partner with the Wasp, who's played by that what's that girl's name? What's that actress name? Lily, I think, Evangel Lily. I don't know, but or her character's name is Hope. So I felt like I was going into that type of movie. However, the big problem I had with this movie was that there were so many subplots that it was kind of hard to follow. And given that I have pretty bad ADD, it really doesn't help. Here's how the movie is set up. It sort of picks up from one of the end credits from the first movie, where Michael Douglas and his daughter are looking for their mother, who years ago was lost in the subatomic universe after trying to stop a missile. So they figured out if the new Ant-Man could go to the subatomic universe and get out, so that they can find their mom, who is played by a gorgeous Michelle Pfeiffer. She ages incredibly. Speaking of which, early on in this movie, there are a lot of flashbacks where they go and have some of the older characters do like some sort of makeup or digital composition to make them ridiculously look younger. If you remember, a Star Wars movie Rogue One, where they tried to bring back dead characters or younger characters through digital composition, let's just say Ant-Man does it a lot better. I mean, it feels natural. It doesn't look plastic. Whoever is the team behind that, I mean, props to them, and props to the visual department and visual effects department team. They did a really good job in this movie. So Michael Douglas's character, Pym, is teaming up with Hope so that they can find a way to get back her lost mom, Janet, who's played by Michelle Pfeiffer. In the meantime, while they're doing this, Scott, who is the original Ant-Man, Scott is put under house arrest by the government in San Francisco because I don't know if you remember, but he was aiding and abetting Captain America, who is still a wanted fugitive. That all took place in the Captain America Civil War movie. So yeah, I mean, basically the government has him under house arrest. He can't go anywhere. He has one of those electronic bracelets on, and he has some sort of dream. He is in the mind or body of a woman, which is Michelle Pfeiffer. Turns out to be Pym's wife and Hope's mom. So he tries to reach out to them, and he gets kidnapped by them so that they can get more information. And as it turns out, the two were able to open a gateway to the quantum realm. So yeah, I bet. So that's where they bring Scott, and throughout the movie, there's sort of a subplot where they're trying to fool the FBI into thinking that Scott is still under house arrest. They go to great lengths to keep this a secret. So then another subplot begins where Hope is trying to buy a part from a dealer, and it's a part that would help the quantum tunnel. But eventually she gets, the deal goes bad, and she has to end up basically taking it forcibly. And sure enough, this is where we are introduced to her alter ego, which is the Wasp. Another version of Ant-Man, except she has wings. But the deal is interrupted by some different villain who can somehow evaporate or shift around as almost like a ghost, which is what they call it. They call the new villain the Ghost. It turns out that she is the main antagonist of the story, but that doesn't end there. The plot is really stuffed with different subplots. I mean, there's a subplot about a former partner of Michael Douglas, and there is a different subplot where Michael Pena is trying to rebuild a business for ex-convicts and all that. And it's a very minute subplot in comparison to the others. But the main problem for this movie, I think, was that it had too many different antagonists to deal with. And that's the main problem I had with it. The other problem I had with the movie was that Michael Pena's character, who I thought was pretty funny in the first movie, he kind of comes off a lot, much more annoying in this one. I mean, yeah, he gets a laugh here and there, but most of the time it's just awkward or annoying humor that I really couldn't tolerate it as much. So how does it hold up in comparison to the original? It's not as good as the original. I felt as if they kept up with they have these little clever action scenes where they're turning things, they're transforming things into bigger objects, or they're shrinking themselves to get away from the bad guys. It works a lot in this movie, like it did in the first one. They obviously decided to go bigger by having a climax happen in downtown San Francisco, and where you go sightseeing, there were places that I was pointing out saying, oh, I know where that area is and all that. I predicted earlier that the villain wouldn't be so good. Actually, I take it back. They kind of make the villain a lot more interesting. They make her a lot more sympathetic than you are given the impression when you first see the trailer. It's a lot more complicated. It doesn't mean that she is a particularly evil character, but it gives her some depth, I think, though not too much depth as I would want from some villain that I was trying to sympathize with. The movie moves as if it is a chase movie. You know, the government is chasing after the good guys, the bad guys are chasing after the good guys, and all that. The pace of the story is good. It's just I found the plot kind of muddled and kind of like stuffed. So yeah, that's my quick review of Ant-Man and the Wasp. Yeah, I think I'd say it's worth watching for theaters, although I would recommend like a matinee price. Overall, I would give it a 6 out of 10. You'll have a good time, and but again, it's kind of a bit of a mess. A lot of the humor works. Some of it does get annoying at some point, but there's a lot to enjoy. I think it's harmless.